Hi everybody, I hope you're staying reasonably warm on this brutal day. I'm trying to enjoy it, so I've been freezing big blocks of ice with my kids, and we're planning on turning them into an ice fort later on. Um, I know many of you will not leave your dorm rooms or apartment buildings today, so I'm hoping that this little short lecture here helps you make progress on Activity 2. As a reminder, our goal for Friday is to have Activity 1 completed, Activity 2 completed, and Homework 0 completed. And we'll talk about Activity 3 on Friday as well. So if you get hung up on anything, any technical issues or installation issues or bugs you can't just resolve, don't worry. That happens really regularly. This has been a weird week because it's been a short week and we haven't had a lot of class. And so we haven't had as much contact time as we would like this early in the semester. So it's really normal to encounter some of these problems. Work on it a little bit and see if you can resolve it. But if not, come to lab on Thursday and we can help you work through these problems. So if you are having problems just getting IntelliJ to run at all, I put a link to an online web Java editor that you can use for an IDE while you're waiting for IntelliJ to start operating smoothly. Just make sure you save your work somehow. So save all the Java files in a kind of separate document or Word document, something like that, so you can copy and paste them in. Okay, so let's get started. So if everything went well, you're going to have 3 repos or 3 modules checked out. You see HW0, which most of you already completed, shared, that we'll use for my class examples, and personal, where you will do your own work. And we're going to work in personal right now. So I'm going to kind of emulate something that's similar to what you'd be doing in Activity 2. And all that work is going to go into personal. So I'm going to just kind of talk through it as we go. I've opened IntelliJ, I've opened my project, I have my 3 modules, and if you go to the instructions on Activity 2, you would see that it's asking you to make some new classes, and in each class you're going to do some work. So remember that a class is a file, and we're going to have a different file for each of these little tasks within Activity 2. Each module has a source directory, src, which we pronounce source, and that's where all the Java code goes. And if I open that up, you can see that there's one Java file that comes with the repo that we gave you, hello world. That's in a package called comp124 in a directory called source. And so I'm going to create a new package, I do that by, there's lots of different ways you can do it. You can say File, New. Make sure you've clicked on Source while you're doing this. File, New, Package, right here. Or you can right-click and do the same thing. And we're going to call this Basic Java, or you could call it comp124.basic Java. I think that's what I'd actually like to do. That's the way you normally call things. You separate kind of folders with periods, and so I'll call it comp124.basic Java, and now you can see there's this kind of subdirectory or subpackage in there. And now I'm going to create a new Java class in there, and I'm just going to make up a new task that's similar to the tasks you're going to complete in Activity 2. And so this task, I'm going to say we want to create a Java program that takes 2 numbers and adds them up. Okay, so it's going to ask the user for 2 different numbers, x and y, and it's going to add them up and print the result. Okay, so that's really similar to the tasks you do in Activity 2. So we're going to create a new Java class. Remember, a class corresponds to the file. You're going to do each task in a different file or a different class. All right, so IntelliJ is going to ask us how we would like to name that class. As a reminder, classes are named upper camel case, and so each word should be capitalized, no spaces. Typically, you name classes using nouns. So this class would be named number adder. Not add numbers, which is maybe a verb, but number adder, which is a noun. So IntelliJ is going to ask if we want to add this file to Git, and you do, because you want to be able to commit and push this work so that if you switch computers or need to restore your desktop in the future, that you have that already going. So I'm going to add it to Git, and then we'll be able to push it at the end. And now you see I have the very basic minimal structure of a Java class or file. So there's a package definition here, comp124.basicjava. And so this is saying inside the source module I have a comp124 directory, and inside that comp124 directory I have a basic Java directory. And then there's a class called numberadder.java. So all those things correspond and are required to correspond in Java. As I mentioned before, Java has very strong conventions that make it kind of easy to do these kinds of things. Okay, so if I open up the basic Java package, you can see there is that number adder Java file in there. It leaves off the .java, but it is there. And you'll notice it's green, and that's because it's a brand new file that I have added to Git but have not yet commit or pushed right now. So in number adder, I'm going to create the basic kind of main function. And that has a standard signature. It's a signature that's hard to remember, but after you type it hundreds of times, which you will do in this class, you'll remember it. In the beginning, you'll just want to look it up and copy it, but here it is. It's just a pattern that you'll memorize. We'll talk about exactly why you use this pattern later on, but for right now, just know that if you want to have a class that you can directly run, then it has to have this main function written in this exact way. And so public static void main string args. All right, and so I'm going to start out with a little message to the user about what this program is going to do, and then I'm going to just run it to make sure it runs. System.out.println. This program adds two numbers to maybe user specified numbers. Okay, and you'll notice there's this little red squiggly over here, and that's because I'm missing a semicolon, as IntelliJ is telling me. Maybe I'll even add a comment up to the top of a file. And there's two different kinds of comments. There's single line comments, which start with a double slash, or there's block comments, which start with a /*. And if you start typing a /* and then just press return, IntelliJ will automatically do the other half of it, which is the //. So I can write a big comment that spans multiple lines anywhere between those two things. And I'm going to write an example program to add to collect two numbers from the user, comma, add them together and print out the input. Okay, so someone who opens up this file will know what it does. They probably would already know from the print lines, but this is just safe. All right, so if you read the textbook, chapter 2, at the end of chapter 2, they start, maybe it's, actually I might be getting the chapter wrong, but maybe it's chapter 4. They start talking about the scanner class. And the scanner class is the way that we read information, either from the user or in the future from text files or other kinds of files. So we're going to create one of these scanners, and then we're going to use that scanner in order to get information from the user. All right, so the very first thing I'm going to do is create one of these scanners who can read. And we're going to want to read from the input where the user is typing, and that is called system.in. So if you put that whole pattern together, you'll see it in an example in the textbook. But we're going to create a variable called scanner. And remember that Java, when you declare variables, you first specify the type of a variable. Sorry, I'm going to turn my notifications off. Such a bad habit. Off. There we go. So I'm going to say scanner. And the book, I think, calls them scan, so we'll follow that convention. Now, you'll notice that scanner is red, and I'll talk more about that, and it's underlined. And IntelliJ is actually saying, I don't understand what a scanner is, but I have a guess, and it could be Java util scanner. And it's actually right about that, but just for the moment, I'm going to not accept IntelliJ's suggestion, though you can, and that'll make your life a little easier. So we have to use the keyword new. So this indicates that we're creating a new object, and so we'll talk a lot more about what that is, but just recognize this is a pattern that's used to create new objects. And I said I want it to scan system.in, which is input from the user. So it's going to be able to take system.in and produce things from it, like integers. All right, so once I've typed this, you'll notice that there's these two red scanners, and that's indicating from IntelliJ that it cannot resolve the symbol scanner. And so if I click on one of those, and I'm very patient, and I hover over it like this, so watch, click, wait. It's sometimes hard to get that contextual pop-up. You have to click, wait, and then it'll pop this up, and it can help you out. You can also, if you're having trouble, you can click this over here, wait, and it will give you a pop-up of what you might want to do. And what it's telling you is, I don't understand scanner. I don't know where that comes from, but I have a guess. I know there is a scanner in Java util. Java util is a package. You can think of a package as a folder containing code that's shipped by Java typically. And we use these in Python too, right? You use import statements. We're going to use import statements here in Java too. And so I'm going to accept IntelliJ's suggestion here. And the way you accept a suggestion is you press on Mac, you press Option, Enter, and it's showing you the keyboard shortcut right there. On Windows, it's going to be different. Maybe it's Control Enter on that. Maybe it's Shift Enter. I don't know what it is on Windows. But Option Enter. All right, so bang, Option Enter, and now it's saying which scanner do you want, and the scanner that we're going to use in this class is java.util. So that's just something you have to kind of be familiar with, and we're going to be using it over and over in this class, so you'll get used to it. Usually IntelliJ will get the right class correct as the first item. So all right, I'm going to press return, and now you can see it's added a line below the package statement up here. It says import java.util scanner, and that lets IntelliJ or Java more generally understand that when you talk about scanner, you're talking about the scanner in Java util. So you see that the red has gone away, so now I've created a scanner. All right, so I have this thing that can scan for me. This is a variable called scan. The type is scanner. So remember, in Java we have type, variable name, equals, and then some kind of expression on the right. And here in this expression is to create a new object. And that object is a scanner, and it scans from the user input. All right, so now I have this object to do the scanning, and I'm actually going to use it. The first thing I want to do, though, is tell the user that they have to type something. Enter the first number to add. All right, and I'm not going to use print line, I'm just going to use print. And the difference is print line actually adds kind of a new line. It skips to the next line. And I don't want to do that. I want to prompt the user, have a colon, and then let them enter the number on the same line. So I'm not going to use print line, I'm just going to use print. We'll leave off the ln. And so then I want to get the first number, and we're going to call it x. So maybe int x equals scan.nextInt. And this is a pattern that you saw in the reading. I'm going to remove, this is good. What's happening here is I have I've created this variable scan, which is a scanner object. And scan has methods, and this is a pattern that you saw in Python as well. If you had a turtle object, you could call the name of that variable dot and some kind of function on that turtle. So a scanner has a nextInt, and because we created it with system.in, it'll look in system.in and read the next integer from it. And that method here returns an integer. And I could see that if I hover over here, I can control, let's see, on Mac it's a command click, but on Windows maybe it's going to be a control click. And so if you just control hover, you can see that. And then it returns an int, and so here I'm going to store it in the variable x, and because Java is typed, I have to specify the type. So this is assigning a variable x the value of the next int, and I have to type it. All right, so I've got the first number. Now I'm going to just duplicate this code, right? Maybe I'll first make sure this works. It's always a good idea to test things. If I want to run this code, I can do so by clicking either one of these green arrows over here, or I could say run, oops, not hello world. I guess I'd first have to click this number adder over here, and then I would have to control click, right click, whatever you do on your machine, and say run number.name. The easiest thing to do, like I said, though, is just to click with both arrows will do it. So I'm going to click this one right here, and it gives me some choices, and we want the first choice. We won't use debugging until much later in the class, and don't worry about coverage. So always the first choice. All right, so I've now run it, and it should print out these two statements and ask me for a number. It won't actually do anything else. Okay, my IntelliJ is compiling here, and there it's popped it up down there. Now if I try to type a number right now, it's going to show up in my editor. Do you see it's showing up here? And so I have to first click down here in order to make sure IntelliJ knows I want to send the number, the typing to this actual program. So let's say I'm going to add, the first number is going to be 10. All right, so it shows up in green. It happens to be coming from me, and I'll press return, and that's the extent of that program, and IntelliJ tells me that it finished with exit code 0. Exit code 0 is good. It means everything worked properly, and so that's all good because it's not supposed to do anything else. I'm going to just duplicate these two lines of code. So I copied them. I'm going to paste them. So I'm going to just change a couple things here. Enter the second number to add. Exactly the same. We can't have two x variables. So this is different from Python. In Python, you're allowed to redeclare the variable x as many times as you want. And here, we can't do that. Once we have an x declared and a declaration happens, when you have the class name out front, so or the type name, so int x, and here you have an int. We have to call this something else. It makes sense to call it y, and then we're going to add them up. All right, so I'm going to say x. Okay, this is a little bit confusing, and I'll explain it. It's difficult to understand what's in the quotes and what's not in the quotes. So I'm going to have an answer, which is just x plus y. And then, okay, so this is the complete program. And so this print line here is going to construct a string. All right, so I'm going to print out a string, and that string is an expression. It consists of the number x followed by, and in between these quotes right here, we have a plus sign. So the number x followed by a plus sign, followed by the number y, followed by a plus sign, or followed by an equals, followed by the answer. And Java is going to understand that even though this is an int and this is a plus, because there's a string over here, Java will understand anytime you're plussing with a string on either the left or the right side, actually what you're wanting to do is string concatenation, or sticking these strings together. So it's going to convert this thing that's an int. I typed in 10, so maybe it's 10. It's going to convert the int 10 to a string, and then it's going to have a plus with spaces around it afterwards, and then whatever these are typed for y, and then an equals. And so this is going to just construct a long string that shows the answer. All right, and so let's run this all, and it should all work. So I'm going to just run it by clicking the same arrow. Once you've run something once, you can also just jump down here to the window where it was running and click the green arrow. You can also, I'm missing it. If you're not in presenter view, there's a green arrow that shows up on the kind of the menu bar as well. You can run it from lots of places. I'll click it down here. It's recompiling. We'll talk about compiling later on. And so let's say I want to do 9 followed by 34. All right. Okay, and then it prints it out. 9 plus 34 equals 43. So x was 9, y was 34. The answer is going to be 9 plus 34, which is 43. And then I get x. So 9, a string with 9, followed by the plus sign, followed by 34, followed by the equal sign, followed by 43 all together. So one big string. All right, so there you have it. That's an example of the type of thing you're going to do for activity 2. If you get stuck at all, I will hold online office hours. I'm going to put a Google Hangout link on Moodle, and I'll be on there from 9 to 10 tomorrow. So jump on and let me know if you have any questions. Again, if you have trouble getting your IntelliJ set up, another thing you can do is use the online Java IDE, whose name I've forgotten, but I'll post a link to it on Moodle as well. Okay, stay warm and good luck. If you get stuck on any of this, try to catch me in my online office hours. If you still get stuck, work on it a little bit, but if you spend too much time, just wait and come into lab on Thursday and we'll help you get all set up. Oh, one other thing I'll mention. So I did this work in 124 personal, which is where you'll do it. I am going to commit it in shared so that you can see the code that we wrote. So if you do a poll of shared, I'm just going to copy number adder from my personal into shared, and you'll be able to see it then. Okay, so we can add it to Git. And now I'm going to commit it. So click on the things that you want to commit. So Git commit file, and this will send it up to the cloud so that I can see the file, and if you switch computers, you can recheck it out and get that same file. All right, so Git commit file, and I'm actually going to also commit shared, so I copied it in there, so then you'll be able to see it. And I add a message, so added examples inspired by activity 2. All right, and if I just click commit here, it'll save it to my computer but not send it to the cloud. So you have to click the arrow, click commit and push, and then there's one more commit and push you have to do. Don't worry about these warnings. It's harmless. And then another push. There's so many clickings just to get it to go up there. Okay, there we go. I will see you. I'll be at the 8 o'clock lab on Thursday, and I expect I'll see all of you there.